fire exit here and also out through the top stairs there. We've got one toilet here and toilets out on your left-hand side down the steps. So great to see so many people here tonight. And this meeting has come from community discussions about the proposed mega data centres and proposed solar farms for this region. We thought it really important that the community has the information necessary to make informed decisions about the future of land use in the Mackenzie. Mary, tonight, she spent a lot of time and energy collating information, and she'll present that to you tonight. My name is Tanya Petrov, and I used to work here in the 1980s and early 90s. And my experience living here back then in this beautiful, iconic part of the world drew me back here to retire. So I've been living here now for a year and a half out on Mackenzie. Out on Manukau Terrace. So this whakatauki, I thought, is really apt for what we're about to, and all the energy we need to do. So the Māori whakatauki, whaia, te iti, kahurangi, ki te tuahua koe, me monga, te, pursue that which is precious, and don't be deterred by anything but a high mountain. So thanks for coming, and I'll hand over to Mary.
Thanks again everyone for coming. My name's Mary Murdoch. I am the Twizel Community Board Chair, but I am acting here tonight in my capacity as a resident, ratepayer and concerned business owner. So tonight will consist of a 25-minute presentation followed by a public forum to discuss and plan. And the purpose of the meeting is information on information on infrastructure projects that have consent or are in the fast track process for consent. These are all renewable energy projects. Information on potential projects going forward, including the possibility of a hyperscale data centre in the Mackenzie, what the consenting process is and how does this impact us, what happened in Southland already as a result of this process and what this might mean for us here. We want to know what you think, what you want, and the direction you think this community should head. So there will be an opportunity for you to speak after the presentation, and then to finish up with an action plan, if any. So, what has happened already? Last year, Meridian went through the fast track process and was granted consent last month to lower Lake Pukaki for 3 consecutive winters from the current lowest level of 518 metres above sea level to 513 metres. The consent allows the lake to be lowered without the usual approval from Transpower, whose job it is to ensure electricity supply. The purpose being to shore up the southern end of Lake Pukaki against erosion by installing rock armouring. This would also give Meridian an extra 545 gigawatts of hydroelectric storage. This consent was granted despite strong opposition from Transpower and Genesis. Transpower was concerned about the undermining of the national security of supply trigger system, dry year management that must be coordinated, and contingent storage that it's an emergency tool. Genesis was pretty unhappy about market fairness and competitive neutrality, and also the risk of uncoordinated dry year management, including environmental, cultural impacts and of a deeper drawdown. Despite that, Meridian was given consent under the fast track process. Meridian Energy is also being very vocal in the media about raising Lake Pukaki, New Zealand's largest hydro storage lake, to build a new dam and drill a tunnel through the Southern Alps to divert additional water into the lake. This proposal was outlined at a Meridian Investor Conference, and we have heard variously 1 metre, 5 metres, 13 metres and 29 metres of raising the lake. Nothing's concrete, but Meridian are talking about it. An extra 5 metres would give them another 545 gigawatts of energy. So, in addition to what Meridian are doing, these are all solar projects that are listed or about to be listed on the Fast Track website. Balmoral Station over on Braemar Road, the Grampians over by Mackenzie Pass, Holden Solar on Holden Station at the top of Lake Benmore, and you will know by now that that was consented properly 2 days ago. The Point Solar, which is the top of Lake Benmore between the Pukaki River and Ohau Hydro Canal, Twizel Solar over State Highway 8, southwest of the Twizel River, down towards Ohau, and Bright Fern Energy just south of Lake Ruataniwha on Doug McIntyre's farm. Let's have a look at each of these. Balmoral Station, we're not going to talk too much about. It's only listed on the Fast Track website with no further information. It went through a resource consent process and they were turned down in 2022. Apparently they're appealing this through the appeals court. Nonetheless, it's sitting on the Fast Track website, so one imagines it may be reactivated. So the Grampians is this one here. So that's Holden Road, and that's the Mackenzie Pass Road there, and it is going to be situated where that yellow bit is. It's a project by Helios. It's a 300 megawatt solar farm with battery storage, enough to power 70,000 houses. It will consist of 500,000 panels on 574 hectares. It will give us 300 jobs during construction, and when it's operational, 5 full-time equivalent jobs. Its status at the moment, it's been referred. The Minister referred it to the fast track process in May last year, and the application was lodged, but it hasn't progressed to a panel decision yet. Going through the fast track application, it's expecting to have construction commence in Q4 2027 and be commissioned by Q4 2029. It has a 35-year lifespan and will be decommissioned at the end. It's a $450 million project. And Te Rananga Owhenua has asked the Minister to consider the cumulative effects of multiple solar farms and on the landscape and biodiversity. It's got first ranking with Transpower for connection to the grid, and also of interest, it is committed to providing yearly funding to a local investment trust to provide enduring contribution to local projects, and this bit matters, lucky tekapo. Now we're moving on to the Holden Solar project. This is the one that's consented 2 days ago, and it's in this red outline here. It's located adjacent to Lake Benmore, south of the Holden Arm Road, about 14 kilometres southeast of Twizel. So this one, interestingly, was approved in spite of the fact that we have district plan overlays being present on this land, such as lakeside protection, area of visual vulnerability, sites of significance to Maori, hydro inundation overlay, flood assessment overlay, liquefaction overlay, and geotech hazards. So it's not all bad. Benefits of the Holden Solar project: 235 to 242 direct jobs, mostly during construction, 5 to 6 long-term jobs, and maybe 290 direct indirect jobs in accommodation and hospitality.
Excuse me, that last slide was not Holden Solar Farm.
Wasn't it?
No.
Are you sure?
No.
You're on the wrong side of the river.
Oh, it's here. Sorry, it's that one. Yeah, it's there. Okay, thank you. Let's hold that. You might have to hold the slides, Jen. Anyway, local and regional labour pools will be used given the constraints of the Mackenzie, and it's an estimated $135 to $189 million in benefit. The downside of this project: traffic. 30 to 40 heavy vehicle movements per day delivering materials to sites downstate Highway 8 where there are no passing lanes between Geraldine and Timaru to the Dog Point Road. It's already a nightmare during tourist season. Accommodation: where are all the workers going to live? This is not an insignificant issue, and we will address this later. Visually, not exactly in keeping with the Mackenzie landscape, though to be noted, it is tucked away out of sight unless you're looking at it from Lake Benmore. The next one we're going to look at is the Point Solar Farm. This is a far north one, and it is this one in red here. Initially applied under the RMA and was turned down. Its scale is a 450 megawatt peak output. It will supply 100,000 homes, and it will have 730,000 solar panels. It's the largest project in New Zealand currently on the Fast Track website. It is paused until August the 30th, and as far as I can gather, this is due to dealing with ecological issues pertaining to the kaki birds. Timeline for final decision is the 2nd of November 2026. It will have 200 workers in the construction phase, 5 to 6 full-time jobs when operational, and these people will spend money in town because this project is part of Twizel. Cons, as for Holden, where are the workers coming from? Where are they going to live? Another 30 to 40 additional heavy vehicle movements per day coming down State Highway 8, and to work in conjunction with the Holden Station project, so potentially both of these are happening at the same time, so there will be cumulative effects on landscape and biodiversity. Now, Far North Solar have explicitly confirmed a $1 million avifauna compensation strategy with the Department of Conservation, and it will be paid on construction commencement. What is the $1 million for? It's not a general donation, it is targeted ecological compensation package for the kaki and other threatened and at-risk species across the Mackenzie Basin. DOC is the recipient and manager of the compensation strategy. So just to be noted, other than the Grampians and this one with Holden Solar, no other companies under the Fast Track are offering any compensation, and nothing that I can find for Twizel. Here's a question, why not? So now we're moving on to the next one, which is just round. This is the Twizel Solar Farm. It's proximate, this is Twizel, and this is the proposed farm down through here. So it's pretty close to Twizel. So about this Twizel Solar Farm, it's a 300 megawatt solar farm powering 75,000 homes. It's projected to have up to $1.2 million solar panels on 500 hectares. Its status, it's in progress and it's moving. It was referred in August 2025 and the full application was accepted as complete on the 30th of June 2026. They expect approval by mid-February or sooner. So the pros of the Twizel Solar Project, similar, 250 to 300 jobs during construction, and they're talking about 10 to 15 ongoing operational jobs in maintenance, monitoring, vegetation management and site operations. They also will spend money in town. The cons of the project, again, traffic, another 30 to 40 heavy truck movements in and out per day, and also an estimated 80 light vehicle movements per day on already crowded roads. Accommodation, cumulative landscape effects, cumulative biodiversity effects. Now, interestingly enough, this is the first project that the Mackenzie District Council staff have specifically asked for a social impact report on the effect of lack of worker accommodation, social changes, and worker disruption to existing businesses in town, disruption to the rental market, and I wonder who in town they might ask about this. Possibly not the people who could tell them the facts. Would it make a difference anyway? But the cumulative effects of the Twizel Solar Farm and the Point Solar Farm on Twizel is not insignificant, and none of this has been addressed. Right, this is the final project that I know about. So this is the Bright Fern Energy Project. So we have Lake Ruataniwha, and this is Doug McIntyre's dairy farm here, and this is the proposed area for a solar farm. So the Bright Fern planning manager from Christchurch came to talk to us at the community board last year, and he has recently been in touch to remind us that submissions closed on the 22nd of July. I sent that on to Matt so that he could put it in the Twizel update so that people could comment on it. I was away, so I wrote to him last week asking that he please consider the transport issues with a big solar farm like that, and would he also please consider any social impacts on the town. So far he's written back and said, oh well, NZTA is sorting the transport. We as a community board will probably try and meet with him. He seemed to be open to that. So the Bright Fern Energy Solar farm. It's a proposed 500 megawatt solar farm, and it's proposed that it will supply 130,000 homes. The next one, it'll give us 400 jobs during construction for 2 to 3 years, a few afterwards. Workers will spend money in town, and depending on your point of view, there will be less cows because they're planning to graze sheep underneath the solar panels. And the cons, as already stated, accommodation shortages, traffic management, and worker shortages. And that one was 653. I haven't got that information. Tanya, you might have to get it off my paper. So, the combined negative effects of the impacts of the solar farms, there will be a total of 1,920 megawatts of solar farm energy when the sun is shining. It may not all be able to connect to the national grid, and given that Meridian also projects a potential 540 gigawatts with lake lowering, even though that is currently only temporary, that is just in the Mackenzie. They may well be looking to park that power somewhere else, and the potential issues with combined visual and landscape and ecological effects, and amplified traffic and accommodation issues in the construction phase, and existing businesses suffering if their staff move on to construction. These are all things that need to be considered. So, what else can we expect on an industrial scale? On the 17th of May 2026, Charlie Mitchell wrote an article in the press about the business dealings of Chinese-born New Zealand national James Gu and his business partner Yalia Lee, because they've bought the Glen Cairn Station pastoral lease. Now, I have here. This is a really interesting piece of paper. A deep dive into the company's office shows some 20 odd companies these two are involved in, and I'll just read out to you some of the ones that these two have just done in the last little while. Lake Benmore Limited, O House C Resort Limited, O House C Resort Holdings 1 Limited, and there was a BM, meaning Benmore Energy Limited, and the New Zealand Data Hub Limited. So these have all been done, most of these have been done in the last 24 months. So, he put in a fast track application in 2024. And what he was trying to do was a proposed horticulture, wind, solar and data centre on the station, and a hydrogen refilling service, accommodation and retail. Oh, and some sheep. And they're clearly up to something, even though this may not come to pass. He's looked at that site. He's got the rights to use that site, even though only under a pastoral lease at the moment, and he is planning something. So, the fast track application has gone no further. However, it may seem a bit outrageous. It doesn't mean nothing will happen. Now, so in conjunction with that, in the ODT, Mary Williams, on Saturday, July the 18th, 2026, in response to a query from the Otago Daily Times to Invest New Zealand, the government agency which promotes overseas investment in New Zealand, including from data centre developers, said that 5 high-energy use data centres could be dotted across the south under plans supported by a government investment agency. And in March, an AI data centre being built near Invercargill by DataGrid was the first in New Zealand to get the go-ahead in a consent process that did not require public consultation. So in a response to the query from the ODT, the government agency said that Twizel, Ohau, Geraldine and Cromwell are 4 possible locations for data centres. So, is this what Twizel wants or needs? Aside from the obvious visual impacts, let's have a look at the hyperscale data centre project that has just been approved in Southland. Is anyone here not familiar with this project? Okay. I'll just give a brief summary. It's a Singapore-based company. They've gained resource consent on a non-notified basis to build 6 data halls, 170 metres by 80 metres by 12 metres, over 49 hectares, 147 chillers for cooling, 84 emergency generators. These are the biggest ones money can buy. They'll store 840,000 litres of diesel on site, and they'll use 280 megawatts of power, ramping up to 1,000 megawatts when they expand. Well, why should we care? Well, we could get a hyperscale data centre here because, as stated by Invest New Zealand, we have in Twizel an abundance of water, lots of renewable electricity, and soon to be even more thanks to the solar farms who may be looking for a home that they generate. We have a relatively cool climate, and we have proximity to the fibre cable that will come past Twizel, meeting up with the Trans-Tasman cable that will be landing at Oreti Beach in Southland. We are not talking here about the smaller New Zealand owned and run data centres. We already have 50 plus of those in New Zealand. They're legitimate New Zealand businesses paying New Zealand taxes and employing New Zealand residents. And they are built in appropriate places and have not yet attracted the massive backlash that the hyperscale data centres seem to be attracting in greater amounts overseas every day. Southland's data grid hyperscale data centre is the first in New Zealand. It has resource consent issued, but building hasn't even started, and it's attracting a lot of unwanted and unfavourable attention on its own. And why might that be? Well, they have a supply contract from Mercury for 140 megawatts of their 280 megawatts of power, and it's very unclear as to where they think they'll get the rest from. There are concerns about the noise data grid will generate with cooling, and if they have to use diesel generators for backup power, 84 of those going 24 hours a day will create a lot of noise and a lot of pollution. And there's the big unknown about the low amplitude vibrations that the cooling fans and other machinery will make. This can travel a long distance, affecting people kilometres away. It's less than 20 hertz, you can't hear it, you feel it. It hasn't been assessed and it doesn't need to be monitored. These data grid centres cannot be shut down. So if there's a squeeze on the power supply nationally, like there was last week in New Zealand, businesses and homes will suffer the consequences, and data grid type data centres will have priority. So there's a big unknown about that low amplitude vibration, and it's one of the things that the Southland Sustainable Coalition is most concerned about, along with the consent to take a massive amount of groundwater, 200 million litres per year. DataGrid has come out in the media and said that they will now use a closed loop system and will rely on rainfall and won't need this water. However, they still have consent to take it. They have consent to discharge waste and stormwater, and some of that onto land that may affect wetlands. Neighbours were consulted and are now going back saying they were not properly informed and are requesting that they be re-engaged. There's generally poor external monitoring required when it's built, and the Southland Sustainability Coalition group of very concerned and intelligent Southlanders have gone through the resource consent line by line and have a significant list of points that the Southland District Council needs to go back and revisit. They have used the RMA to justify every one of these points and have essentially done the job of the Southland District Council. What is less certain, Southland District Council are very supportive of the project because it's going to bring a lot of money with construction jobs. What is less certain is what the ongoing benefit will be. 50 to 60 specialist jobs that could equally be done remotely. They don't know. They might need cleaners. They definitely will need security, but they're using robo-dogs overseas because AI has made those. It's tax uncertain. These are digital exports which are borderless, and we are already unable to tax these effectively. And then another big worry is it could be stranded infrastructure when they leave it if a better offer comes along. Unlike the data centres overseas, DataGrid has nothing that says they have to clean up the site or that they have to leave money to do so in the future. So, is this what Twizel wants? Do we need data centres? Probably. We already have them, New Zealand owned, controlled, with big tax being collected. Do we need a hyperscale data centre? Probably not. Whilst this will bring in a lot of construction jobs, there are big problems with them as overseas experience is increasingly showing. Long-term jobs are few. They're overseas owned and they will essentially export our electricity, which increases our prices, much like dairy has already done. The next question, could we get a hyperscale data centre here in Twizel? Absolutely. Without our knowledge, there is nowhere in the fast track process that we get to submit on, only an invited parties get a say. And if a project gets rejected from fast track and sent back to the resource consent process, it could be done on a non-notified basis, just like the Southland one. They've set the precedent. And if the current conservation reforms and the National Environmental Bill currently before Parliament get passed in their current form, we're in really big trouble. Recent Select Committee recommendations state, I'm so sick of this paper.
Go digital.
Want to use the bit of AI to put it?
Oh, I don't like AI. The Minister may set aside environmental limits for a broad range of activities where the Minister considers public benefit of activity outweighs ecosystem health, human health, and needs and aspirations of communities. So it doesn't matter what anybody else says, the Minister, whoever he might be, might say, nah, it's going ahead. God help us if he's not someone very bright. So it's got shades of Shane Jones, drill baby drill. So even the other thing that we need to think about, even the millions of dollars we as ratepayers here in the Mackenzie have already paid to have the council staff sort out the district plan over the last decade to protect us, won't help us. So let's just take a look at some of these things that they've put in place. This is a hydro inundation overlay. So if Pukaki Inlet Dam breaks there, this overlay is going to flood all this area here. And some of that's quite a significant amount of water. They're saying up to 4 metres. So at Pukaki Airport, you're not allowed to build a helicopter operation employing 20 people in case the dam breaks and they all die. But you can build a solar farm with 200 people working on it. That doesn't matter. Right, next one. Outstanding natural landscape. That's the pink stuff there. It covers most of the Mackenzie. And this one here is the reason we have thousands of tourists, of which a lot of our businesses rely on, and it's our economic lifeline. If this is taken over by large industrial enterprises, they won't come. Next one. Areas of visual vulnerability. So these are all the brown areas here. Same thing again, this can be overridden. Next one, outdoor lighting. So this is the dark sky reserve, and we have to make sure, obviously, that our lights are not shining up to the sky. Now the Glen Cairn one is down here, and that's in Waitaki. So that is not currently covered by the dark sky reserve. So if someone was lucky enough to put a hyperscale data centre up there, they could have as many lights shining as they wanted to. And the last one, this is the lakeside protection area here, Holden stations around here. That doesn't matter, apparently. So last to Glen Cairn station now. The only thing we've possibly got to help us here, if they wanted to put one there, I don't know whether they will, but it is a possible site. It's got a rural scenic overlay, means it's an area of high visual sensitivity and therefore should have stricter building controls, greater scrutiny of earthworks, protection of the rural character, restriction on signage and lighting, and extra assessments for resource consent. They won't be required under a fast track process necessarily, because only entitled people get to comment. The onus is on the developer mostly to do the reports, and it's up to them to sort the mitigation. They can buy their way out of problems,